Hey guys, this is Rachel with Cypress Textiles, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make the granny square motif that I used for the Mateo granny square baby blanket. I'm using Scheepjes Softfun denim today and a size H 5mm hook. You might use a smaller hook for this yarn, but I crochet pretty tightly, so I use this hook, and with other projects I have used a smaller hook. But for this project, I'm using 5mm. I've made a slip knot, and I'm going to just go ahead and jump in to making the granny square motif. There are loads of different ways to make granny squares, and I know I use probably all of them. But for this project, this is how I made my motif. So I'm going to chain 3 after I've made my slip stitch, and then into the third chain from the hook, I'm going to make I meant slip knot a second ago, but I'm going to make a slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. And I just grab this top part of the loop and I leave the other two parts of the chain behind. So I just grab that top loop, make my slip stitch. All right, and when you chain 3, you have a very tiny little space to put your hook in. So if you prefer to chain 4 or 5 or even make a magic ring, that's all okay. I like to chain 3 and join with the slip stitch. So now I'm going to go straight into making a single crochet, and I'll tell you why in a second. I don't chain up or anything. I just insert my hook, pull up my loop from my single crochet, and complete the stitch. And the reason I do that is because if you followed me for any length of time, you might know I use what's called a beginning DC, which is just a single crochet and a chain. So this is what I use for my first DC of the row or round. I don't chain up like chain 3 like normal. I just use single crochet, chain 1, and that makes an excellent stand-in for a regular double crochet. Okay, so we're making our beginning double crochet here, single crochet, chain 1, and I'm going to chain 1 again, and that's for the corner. All right, so now I'm going to go straight back into my center ring with 3 double crochet, and that's going to be our repeat. Chain 1, 3 double crochet. This is my second one, and third. All right. So everything is really tiny here because I'm just at the center, but it'll get better, I promise. And as you do it more, it'll be second nature. So here's that beginning DC, my corner chain, and my 3 double crochet. So now what I'm gonna do is work my repeat 3 more times. Chain 1, 3 double crochet. 3 more times, and I'll show you because we're gonna omit the final double crochet before we join. Okay, so I've worked my repeat twice more. I've got chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, and then chain 1, and I've got 2 double crochet for the third time of my repeat. So the reason I've only done 2 is because my beginning DC counts as a stitch. So to make this last group of 3, I've got my 2 final stitches plus that first stitch that I made. And here's my yarn tail that I've been working over. So before I join my round, I'm gonna cinch that yarn tail closed. So I know you don't want to weave all your ends whenever you're finished with your blanket. So you wanna do them as you go. So before I join this round, I've cinched the tail already. I'm going to go into this chain here, but I'm going to trap the tail in between the working yarn and the chain. So that way when I make my slip stitch, so see, I've gone through these 2 loops of the chain and also my tail is resting over it there. And I'm going to make my slip stitch, and now the tail is brought up. You can kind of see it in the back there, but that won't matter when the blanket's done. All right, so now I'm going to work straight into this chain space here with a beginning DC. So I'm going to make a single crochet, chain 1, and I'm working over the tail because you don't want to weave it in later. You're going to work it over it as you go. Chain 1 more for the corner, and I'm going to make 2 double crochet right over the tail and into the same chain space. And on the third DC, I'm going to go ahead and yarn over for your DC, insert your hook, pull up your loop, and draw the yarn through 2 loops on your hook. So now we're almost done with our DC. One more swipe through and our DC is done. Before we do that, you take your yarn tail and bring it in between your hook and your working yarn. All right, so it goes right over your working yarn to the back of the work. Now, yarn over and pull your yarn through. So now the tail is up here. All right, and I don't make a chain space for my Mateo's Granny Square Blanket Granny Square. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go into the next chain space with my first double crochet, but I'm still trying to bury my tail. So I'm gonna pull up my loop, yarn over and draw through 2 loops on the hook. All right, so now just before I finish my DC again, I'm gonna bring my tail in between my hook and my leading yarn, my working yarn, to the front now. So before I brought it to the back and now I brought it to the front. So you're kind of weaving it as you go. Now I'm gonna make that final pass to finish my DC. So now my yarn is coming out of my DC there. That's good, that's what you want. You want your tail to go there, and now you're gonna pinch your yarn tail to the work because you're just gonna work the rest of this corner over it. And you're basically working like this until your tail is all gone. That way you don't have to weave it when you're done. So I'm gonna make 2 more double crochet. Okay, and then my chain space for the corner. Now I'm gonna work 3 double crochet. All this is over the tail again. Oh, all right, so before you make your final pass of your last double crochet there, so I've got, for my corner, I've got 3 DC, chain 1, 3 DC, and right before I make that final pass, again, I've got more of this tail left. Take your tail and put it between the yarn and the hook, between your working yarn and your hook, and you can see it laying over right there. All right, so that whenever you make your final pass for your double crochet, it gets trapped. All right, and you can keep working over this, or you can just leave it and snip them off when you're finished. So I'm gonna yarn over, work into my next chain space because I'm gonna make my next corner. And I like to just go ahead and bring that tiny little yarn tail to the front because I like to have to snip anything off the back of my work when I'm done. So now I've got that first DC finished, and I'm gonna finish my corner. Remember, the corners are 3 DC, chain 1, 3 DC. So I'm working over my yarn tail. Okay, chain 1 and 3 DC. And this is gonna be the last I'm gonna see of that yarn tail. Yay. So now you can work the rest of your granny square without having to worry about bringing your yarn tail to the front and back. But it's all worth it because look at the back, no ends to weave. Okay, so now we're gonna make our final corner here, 3 DC, chain 1, 3 DC. All right, 3 DC, chain 1, 3 DC, and now we're in our first corner. So we've got that unfinished first corner to finish up. So I'll make 2 DC. Now I'm gonna join my round. And just like before, I'm going through this loop that's leading out of here and the back loop of the chain. Go through both of them. All right, with your slip stitch. All right, so now we've got round 1 and 2 complete, and we're gonna go ahead and work in this manner for 3 more rounds. So let's go straight in with the beginning DC, single crochet, chain 1, and then chain 1 for my corner. Make 3 DC in the same chain space. All right, and you know I don't make the chain 1 here, so sometimes it's a little hard to explain in patterns, but in between these 3 DC groups is where I'm gonna make my 3 DC. So I'm gonna just go into the space. Okay, don't go into any stitches, just straight into the space. Pretend there's a chain there and make 3 double crochet. All right, and that's how it looks. And this is all in the name of creating these tiny holes because this is a baby blanket, so you don't want holes that are too large, but I still wanted the granny square look. So it creates tiny holes. That's why you're just working straight into the space. So it's all worth it. Your corner, 3DC, chain 1, (3DC). Okay. So that is a repeat. Your 3DC into this space and then your corner, 3DC, chain 1, 3DC. So we're going to work just like that all the way around until we get back to the beginning. So my next move is going to go straight into this space right here. So I'm just done now. I've got all my corners made, and my last thing I did was these 3 double crochet into this space right here. It's not a chain space, it's just the space in between the 3DC groups. And now I'm at the first corner again, just like last time. Make 2 double crochet. All right, and then join into this beginning DC to make your corner with your slip stitch. And I'm going to show you how you can just hardly tell where your first corner is. And that's good. That's what you want. You don't want to be able to tell that if you chain 3, you really can tell the difference between the DC and the chain 3. So that's the meaning behind the beginning double crochet that I have in my patterns. All right, so you're going to work 2 more rounds just the same way, making 3DC, chain 1, 3DC in your corner, and then working 3 double crochet groups in between these in the spaces here, and then back to your corner. So I'm going to work 2 more rounds just the same way, all the way until you have your 5 rounds. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 more, 4, 5. Right. So now I have 5 rounds of this granny square type of stitch. Okay, and I've worked those final 2 rounds just like the first 3. And you can see I've got my 3 double crochet in between the spaces here. All right, so now I'm ready to kind of switch it up. You can stop here if you wanted to make a traditional granny square blanket. You could definitely stop here and just join in the corner and in these spaces in between the 3DC groups if you wanted to. But how I finish off Mateo's granny square blanket is with some solid stitching. And that's just because I do want the traditional granny square feel, but I want it with a different type of joining. I won't say it's not better or anything. It's just that this is the way I did it for this blanket. And what it does is it creates this very clean look. So that's what we're going for with this solid part at the end. Okay. So you're gonna go into your chain 1, your chain 1 space as normal with a single crochet, chain 1, and now we're going to chain 2 for our corner on this round. Okay, so make your beginning DC and then chain 2 for the corner instead of 1. And when you go into your same chain space, only make 2 double crochet. All right, so instead of 3, we're just going to make 2. And now we're going to work across double crochet in all of these double crochet across, so you can make 15 double crochet. I'm going to work straight. Don't skip this first stitch because it's real easy for this first stitch to get kind of caught up in those doubles here. So make sure that you work into that first stitch, and you can count when you're done. Make sure you have all 15. All right, so you're just going to make double crochet in all these stitches across. And you're not going to work in between at all. You can see I'm making doubles into the stitches. So this is the first time on this blanket motif that you're working into actual stitches instead of into spaces. All right, we're almost there to the corner. Okay, now we're at the corner, and our corner is 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet for this round. 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC. And that is just how I'm going to finish my round here, with working 15 double crochet across this row and then 2 DC, chain 2, 2 DC in the corner, all the way up until I get back to the beginning here. All right, so I'm back to the beginning of my round here, and don't forget that before you join your corner, I've done several squares where I forgot to make this final stitch, so don't forget. So you've got 2 double crochet, chain 2 double crochet corners. So right now you've only got this first beginning DC here. So you've got to go ahead and go into your chain space and make that double crochet to complete this corner. All right, so now you're ready to join, and instead of leaving one chain behind for your corner like before, you're going to work into your top chain of your beginning DC, just like normal. All right, with your chain, with your slip stitch, and now you've got that chain 2 corner hanging out there where it's supposed to be. All right, so now we're going to make the final round of this square by going straight into the corner there with 3 single crochets. Remember, I don't chain up for a single. I just go straight into the single. You don't need to chain up for it. And I find that you get much neater work when you don't chain up for your single crochet. All right, and now we're gonna go straight into all these stitches across with singles until you get to your next corner chain space. Okay, so you have 3 single crochet here, and then you're working single crochet all the way across, and I'll show you how it looks when you finish this round. All right, when you finish this round, you're going to come up to the end here, and you don't have any more stitches to work in that first corner because you've already got your 3 singles there in that first corner. And I'll pull this out and just show you the joining of the corner there. And the reason I have this long tail is because for the Mateo's granny square blanket, I didn't just cut a short tail. I went ahead and left a long tail for joining with a whip stitch. So I'm going to show you that on the next video. But for now, I'll just show you. I accidentally pulled out one of my stitches here, so I'm going to put it back. All right, so now I'm ready to join my round. This is how it's going to look when you come up to the beginning of the round again. All right, you've got your 3 single crochet and all your singles all the way across, and now you're ready to join. So you're going to go straight into the top, the regular, just both loops of that first single. Okay, and that's a little different than before because before we've been joining into a chain stitch of the beginning DC, but now you're going to go straight into both loops of your single with your slip stitch. Okay, and leave a long tail. What I do is I try to kind of like measure around 2 sides of the square and then just add a whole bunch more. All right, just make sure you're going to be able to go around. This is probably too much for whip stitch join, but it's okay because I don't want to run out and have to join on more. So it's okay to have a little bit left over. You might get rid of like this much when you cut your tail after joining. But the point is, leave a long tail. It's about, I would say, 2.5 feet long. It's too long, but it's okay. So now you're going to take your hook, insert your hook back to front through the stitch just after the join. So what it ends up being is your center stitch of your 1, 2, 3 single crochet corner. So you see you've got your slip stitch happening here. I've already pulled the yarn through that slip stitch. Now I'm going to go back to front through both loops of the stitch just to the left of your joining stitch and bring that tail to the back. That long tail, bring it to the back. All right, so now you've got your 3 stitches here, the one with the slip stitch over it. It's going to act like the V that's on the other singles. Okay, but you got your slip stitch there, and then your center single crochet, and then the final single crochet. And your tail is coming out of the back of that center one. And we're going to leave this for now. Normally I would weave it in, but we're going to leave this for now because I'm going to use it for a whip stitch join in my next video. So that is how you make the motif for Mateo's granny square blanket. All right, and on the next video, I'll show you guys how to whip stitch join.